then tomorrow the Confederates would come through and they would burn down what has already been burned down, okay? And you couldn't, you couldn't say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not on either side here. If you're not on my side, you're the enemy. So a very, very bloody situation in Missouri, okay? Part of the problem was units in Missouri were very confusing. There was Confederate and Union militia. The Confederates had state guards and home guards. Those are totally two different units. The Union had their troops there as well as irregular troops, or kind of paramilitary. Probably many of you have heard of the Confederate leader William Quantrell, and he clashed with the Union Redlegs, as they were called, because they wore red legs around their red leggings around their pant legs. A guy by the name of Bloody Bill. They tell you a little bit about him. Bloody Bill Anderson. Okay, and the result of this was death and destruction on a huge scale. Now, one of the things I tell my kids, every year, University of Missouri plays University of Kansas, okay? And the University of Kansas mascot is what, Mr. Allen Hale? Chicken Hawks, right. Jayhawks, excuse me. Okay, they're the Jayhawks, okay? Jayhawkers were Union, or Northern people, who came into Kansas before the Civil War to try and get Kansas to be a free state. Missouri sent people into Kansas who were slave people, and you had a war in Kansas called Bloody Kansas, okay? Bleeding Kansas. Well, every year, Missouri and Kansas plays, and if you happen to be the coach of Missouri who loses to Kansas more than once, you're fired, okay? And they call that the border war. And they take that very seriously in Missouri, and they take that very seriously in Kansas. Well, that rivalry goes back, not just football, the thing goes back to the Civil War, okay? And one of the things I try and tell my kids is, history has a big impact on us today. And here in a simple thing like a football game, okay? And I guarantee you, both those coaching staffs tell those kids what's going on there. Illinois filled up its recruiting ranks so quickly that there was guys who wanted to join but couldn't, because our regiment quota had been filled up. So a lot of those guys from Illinois went across the river and joined Missouri, okay? And the unit that they joined over in Missouri was called the 9th Missouri Infantry. Later on, they were switched over to Illinois, and they became the 59th Illinois. Okay? Missouri's one of its greatest contributions to the war was in mules and horses, both for the Union and for the Confederacy. Now, Missouri was kind of an interesting state. The governor of Missouri stayed in Missouri. The legislative branch took off and went to Arkansas. And when they took off, they took the seal, the state seal, which means that this is what makes all the documents and everything official, right? It's the state seal. So you have one Missouri government in exile in Arkansas, and you have the governor, and then he appoints another legislature in Springfield. So, you kind of have a rivalry going there politically. Okay? Some factoids about Missouri. One of the elite Missouri units was Battery H of the 1st Missouri Light Artillery, and it was commanded by, I'm going to be humble here, my great-grandfather, okay, who later on was promoted, and he became a battery commander during the war. It's at this point that I usually show my kids a picture of my great-grandfather and the monument that he has at Shiloh and Vicksburg, and that is one of the questions on my test. Okay, so they might not know who Abraham Lincoln is, by gosh, but you're going to know who my great-grandfather was. Okay? I guarantee you, I can ask them at their 25th reunion, Alan, and they'll know that. Okay, because they're going to be quizzed. The largest battle west of the Mississippi River was fought at Springfield, Missouri, the Battle of Wilson's Creek. And interestingly enough, guys, Missouri had the 3rd most battles fought of any southern state. You think, wait a minute. Wilson's Creek, but they had hundreds of little skirmishes, like 50 guys. 50 of these guerrillas from Quantrell would clash with 150 Union troops, and that classified as a battle. So there was thousands of those things over in Missouri. Okay, the only, as I said, the biggest one was the Battle of Wilson's Creek. I'll entertain any questions you might have. Yes, Alan.
It's my understanding that up between 9th Street and Westerville was a staging area for horses, certainly during they had a creek in there and they had found a lot of artifacts.
Yeah.
And so that has been verified. Was that also a marshaling area for horses during the Civil War or in this area?
Are you talking about the area up in North Alton?
No, I'm talking about up there on 9th Street.
Oh, 9th Street. Alan, I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure about that one. I know that in the Alton area, the area that was a staging area, camping area for the troops coming down from the north was where Lewis and Clark, where the chapel used to be, across the street. They've moved it now, okay? That area in there was a staging area, campground. They would march from that area down to the steamboats on the river at Alton, or the trains. Okay, the city of Alton really didn't want these guys in town. They wanted them on the outskirts of town. Okay, for various reasons. Okay, one was crowd control, and that area during the Civil War was really on the outskirts. It was about 3-4 miles from downtown Alton. So they had them stage out there. The area up here, I'm not for sure. Does anybody know? Anybody? I'd really not heard that, Alan. I don't know. So I can't.
It was during World War I.
Okay.
I had family members that lived up there, and
yeah.
But I never did find out if it was before that.
Yeah. Well, what happened is when guys would join, and the neat thing about the Civil War is that you'd have all the guys from Wood River go and join. Okay. I talked about volunteering, and they took this really seriously. So you'd have everybody from the Falto go and join. That'd be Company A. All the guys from Wood River, Company B. Guys from Alton, Company C. And then they would ship them up to Springfield, to Camp Butler, where they did their basic training. And then after they'd been issued their equipment, and all state troops were issued gray. So at the first Battle of Manassas, you have Confederates in gray and you have Union guys in gray, because all state troops were issued gray uniforms. Federal troops wore blue. And so once they'd had that situation, then they decided, okay, the North's going to be issued blue, and the Confederates kept the gray thing. But they would go up and get their uniforms, spend about 2 weeks in an encampment. Then they would bring them back by train or march their little butts back down to Alton, and then down to Cairo, from Cairo, wherever they needed them down south. So when you get to your regiment, in addition to having all these companies, these guys elected their own officers, okay? So we might elect Doc Hoover back there, because he's a prominent physician in town. He would be the captain, okay? And then we would have the captain, the 2 lieutenants, would all be elected. And then the governor, which what makes the governor so powerful, is he would appoint the colonels. So, if you was a political, dare I use, Rod Balagovich, he could go appoint Burris as the colonel of the 16th Illinois. You've got some political clout there. So that's kind of basically how it worked. And then, they really got most of their training on the way. As they would march, stay someplace at night, they would drill. I have a letter from a soldier, and he's writing back to his mother, and he says, we got up about 5:30, and after roll call and everything, he said, we drilled. And he said, we drilled, and we drilled, and we drilled some more, and then we had breakfast. And then we drilled, and we drilled, and we drilled some more, and we had lunch. And then we drilled, and we drilled, and we had some more, and we had supper. And then we drilled, and we drilled some more, and we went to bed. So, they would, if they had any time in a particular area, they were basically learning how to march and do close order drill rather than anything else. Yes, sir?
I thought there was a prison camp in Rock Island. There wasn't one there?
Yes.
There was?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, you mentioned Bartholo. Wasn't that the group that was some of the most intelligent, courageous guys?
It was. It was. Yeah, you numbered them by intelligence with Company A down to Company...
The Dyers and the Hymels.
There was no Company J, okay? So you went, Company A, B, C, E, F, D, E, F, G, H, skip J, and then...
Hopefully they were issued